Ezuri, beach party time, let's go. What's up, all you legends and weapons? It's time to kick back with a couple of brews on a Friday afternoon, hanging out with the boys, with the ladies, and knock back a couple brewskis with Ezuri. That's right, this dude right here, he's gonna show us how to have a good time, how to chill out, how to stop being so goddamn competitive, because this is a fun deck that I actually play with my friends to have fun during game night. And Ezuri is gonna show us how to relax, unwind, kick back a few brews with the boys, with the feckin' lads, with the fellas, and have a rip of summer this year, right? I'm so sorry, Australia, you don't deserve this. It's very cold out here. I wish I was in Australia right now. Anyway, Ezuri is a creature-based deck who likes to just chill out with the fellas, you know? He just likes to have a good time and like climb a tree or something, you know? Fucking live your life once. For once. God! And you're not trying to close out the game immediately, right? Because we don't want the party to end too fast, okay? You want to build up a board of creatures. You want to kick back in your own yard. You can think of your board as your yard and the neighboring players, the rest of your table, as your block on a sunny Sunday afternoon with the lads and a couple brews. The brews might be spiked with Phyrexian oil, or they might not. Try not to think about it too much. Anyway, here's the deck tech. Take it away, Office Cass. Hooray! Yay! I feel really goofy right now. All right, here we go. We're at the desk. We're not risking dying of hypothermia anymore. And I've even got a little mug of tea to keep me warm. Look at that. Delicious. Okay, like we were saying before out there, we're just gonna mind our own business, have a couple friends over, knock back maybe a few cans, and hop in the hot tub full of Phyrexian oil for a night. Sorry in advance, by the way, if we get a little loud. My pal Timmy is gonna join us, and he can be a real party animal when we pull out the bevies. We'll try real hard not to splash in the pool too much and not to get chlorine in your yard. This deck often feels like we start out the night by hanging out with our own quiet creatures, having a quiet, uneventful time until Ezuri shows up with the hooch, bro, yeah! Once our commander comes over, every little sip you take turns into another and another until you're 8 drinks deep into your deck and your buddies are all breaking the fence to run around into the neighbor's yard and there's a leak in the pool and your grad student friend brought the heavy shit, so you feel like you're living out the same night again and you feel like you're living out the same night again and you feel like you're living out the same night again and you feel like you're living out the Whoa. Win cons, here we go. Everybody knows that you can't have a good party without the food. You're gonna need something substantial to keep you going all night long. This is the life force of our party, much like mana is the life force of the everything in this game. So here's what we need to do first. We're gonna get a couple big, stompy mana dorks, and then we're gonna find a way to untap them after they've tapped for mana. People who work in food service in this country do drugs for a reason. It takes a lot out of you. So we're going to help out the bravest troops in this nation in 2 different ways, making them bigger and then untapping them. Gyre Sage, Incubation Druid, and Kami of Whispered Hopes are all mana creators who can get juiced up nice and big and strong. If we help any of these get big so that they can carry all of those catering trays, then they can use a couple of ways to get a little kickback really quick. This is my SSRIs. It's not Adderall or amphetamines. In order to keep the good times rolling infinitely, we're going to then try to find one of these pieces. A, Staff of Domination. If we can tap a creature for 5 mana, this will let us untap the staff for 4, leaving one floating to produce infinite mana. Or B, Agatha's Soul Cauldron and Horseshoe Crab or Sleep Cursed Fairy in the graveyard. This, on top of a beefed up mana dork that can tap for at least 3 mana, will let the same creature then untap for 1 or 2 blue mana. Once you have all of the mana you could ask for, you should be able to either activate the staff to draw your entire deck, or you can look at every spell that has this magic word on it and cast those ones first. Unless you're very unlucky while shuffling, you should be able to draw your entire deck by triggering Ezuri's ability, or at least find a mana sink to get yourself into a winning situation. One of these dudes. Another option worth considering for infinite mana is Devoted Druid and Machine God's Effigy. I don't run these here because I think of them as CEDH cards for some reason, but if your play group doesn't have my same weird hangups, then you really should do it. Turning D-Druid into a robot is very good. Another way that this list does have to win is Ivy Lane Denizen and Herd Baloth. This is a +1 counters deck after all, so we won't get caught up in which order we need to play these two pieces. Once they're both on the field, you should have a utility land or spells in hand to get the ball rolling. And then go Infinite Baloths. For anyone unfamiliar with these monsters, the safe line to play is Denizen first, so that when you play Herd Baloth, you target the Baloth with her +1 counter trigger. This triggers the Baloth's ability to create a green creature token, which then triggers the elf again. You might get some complaints from the neighbors about having too many dogs over, but they're not going to swing until your next turn anyway, so like, what's the problem, man? They're just hanging out. They're not digging in your yard or anything. Our other win conditions involve your one friend who was really into chemistry as a hobby, you know? If you can find Sage of Hours or his cool Vape Rig Magistrate Scepter, there are a bunch of situations that let us take infinite turns by proliferating charge counters on the Scepter a couple times per turn, or by putting +1 counters on the Sage of Hours using Wizard Class or Simic Ascendancy. Simic Ascendancy is a very unlikely win con in its own right, you know. Lamau, it says it on the card. You win the game. Proliferate, good times, come on, proliferate. You gotta proliferate. Ooh, I bumped the mic. You gotta proliferate. All right, this deck is very reliant on Ezuri as a card advantage engine. It is usually best to get him out before casting a bunch of your one-off spells, because most of those say the freaking magic word on them. There it is. This is really the way that I started building this deck. I had a ton of control pieces from drafting All Will Be One a handful of times, and I wanted to throw them in a pile with this chilled out dude. Just look at his art. He's so friendly. He just wants to invite you over for a brewski on the deck, dude. You gonna say no to that face? Come on, he's so handsome. Your first few turns are best spent building up some ramp and mana producers because that's how we become a big Simic snowball. Once the life of the party gets here, not that one, Ezuri, then you can start popping off these instants and sorceries and get their regular effects plus another card out of each one. It's kind of like a tempo deck in that way. Courage in Crisis, Merfolk Skydiver, and Polymbright Druid are all good for our mana dorks that want more power to tap for more mana. They're also great for targeting Sage of Hours later on. Since we are a +1 counters deck, we also have the backup plan to strap up Ezuri himself to go for lethal commander damage. Almost never happens though. We've also got a handful of creatures that should reliably proliferate once per turn, contributing to the counters plan by getting everybody sauced up at the table and also drawing us cards as a side effect. Bloated Contaminator, Containment Grafter, and Thrumming Bird all proliferate when you connect with a player. Evolution Sage just splashes some counters and oil around the place just for playing a land. And Flux Channeler does it every time that you cast a non-creature spell. With Tainted Observer doing it every time you cast a creature spell, you can pretty much proliferate no matter what you're doing in the game. Does that cover every action we can take in the game yet? Are we a fully generic Simic value engine yet? I think so. Additionally, Tekulthal is here to proliferate twice as often. Vorel of the Hulklade also doubles counters to get our artifacts and our creatures into a game-winning position. Yasan is here so that we can manipulate those verse counters on him to grab whichever combo piece you happen to be missing at the time. You'll probably want to get either Gyre Sage or Kami of Whispered Hopes right away. Later on, you can proliferate him to 5 or 7 counters pretty easily to either snag a Herd Baloth or a Tyrannix Rex to close out the game. I am thinking about swapping him for Park Heights Maverick pretty soon. I think I'd just rather use a ridiculous amount of card draw for closing out games in casual rather than tutors. I like to save tutors for tournament play most of the time. Card draw, here we go. Taking a sippy. We aren't completely reliant on proliferating to draw cards, But this section is way smaller than my usual lists because, again, Ezuri is so good at just threatening us with drawing our whole library and decking ourselves anyway. Benthic Biomaster and Malcolm Alluring Scoundrel are both great in any deck that runs an Agatha's Soul Cauldron. The upside of ditching a Horseshoe Crab is definitely worth running a bunch of looters because they're decent on their own anyway. Biomancer is especially valuable because if he dies, we can use the Cauldron to give Sage of Hours his Adapt ability, and then proliferate that counter to keep taking more turns. Fathom Mage is a great card engine on its own that acts as sort of a second copy of Ezuri in the 99. If you get this out at the same time as either Tekuthal or Hardened Scales, you will definitely be threatening to deck yourself out of the game rather than, winning. I've done it a couple times. It's really funny. Fathom Mage alongside Wizard class also gets your entire deck in your hand if you've got the Wizards class leveled up all the way. Contentious Plan, Experimental Augury, and Tezzeret's Gambit are all generic draw spells that also let us proliferate. Evolution Witness and Unnatural Restoration both draw cards from your graveyard, and Evolution Witness feels especially good here since we can proliferate the +1 counters to keep looping things out of your graveyard until somebody deals with it for good. Protection. Because we are really depending on Ezuri to stick around and invite all of your friends to the party, whether they want to show up or not. Okay, hold on. Cass, make sure you put in that old British dude who's like,
"Me neighbours are always listening to really loud drum and bass, whether they like it or not."
Thanks. Because we are really depending on Ezuri to stick around and invite all of your friends to the party,
whether they like it or not,
we at least need a few ways to protect him from the feds and the fuzz, because fuck those guys, dude. I'm so sick of this country. Oh my god, I'm done here. Ah! Gaia's Gift and Tyvar's Sand are both great ways to protect a single creature from a targeted removal spell or a sweeper, but Ripples of Potential is best at protecting your fragile board of creatures. It can even stop someone from casting a Farewell to get rid of your artifacts, as long as your artifacts have at least one counter on them. This spell also has to be included in this deck because it's got the magic word on it. You gotta. You know what that means. Scream real loud!
Good screaming, everybody!
Mana! We've already talked about the most important mana sources in this deck, the ones that can be proliferated, but ones that aren't part of the win con are Everflowing Chalice and Solar Transformer. Chalice is much better since it goes from producing like 1 mana to 8 or 9 every time I cast it in a game. It happens so reliably, it's wild. People use artifact removal on me just to zap my mana rocks when I play this deck. Solar Transformer also has the upside of giving us energy that we can proliferate, and it turns into an arcane signet as long as we keep proliferating that energy. It will come in handy for a couple of other cards that I'll talk about in a minute. Staff of Completion is another mana rock that has the downside of draining our life when we use it. However, its mode, which proliferates for 3 life, is well worth it. Its first ability is also sneaky good for this deck since we are using Agatha's Cauldron. So we can use it as a sack outlet to give an untap ability to an Incubation Druid and go infinite really quickly. Just go spinny. Planar Genesis and Expand the Sphere are our ramp spells that have alternate modes to either draw a card or proliferate twice. Expand the Sphere often reads proliferate twice, by the way, once we get it in the late game. Once we get the good times rolling, we always need more poison and more counters. Lands are underrated after turn 3 anyway, dude. Elvish Harbinger is also a mana dork that searches for a bunch of our combo pieces. A happy accident of this deck is that all of our combos that win the game except like 2 involve an elf. So if you find yourself with a Baloth, a Cauldron, or a Staff of Domination, you can just use this to go get the other half of the puzzle and put it on top of your deck for later. Worst case scenario, you're getting an Evolution Sage or a Pollenbright Druid just to get some extra value proliferates. The last funky little piece here that helps with our mana, technically, is Primal Prayers. This is the other energy card that I was talking about. We already know that when a card gives us an inch of energy, we can take a mile, dude. We are getting sauced up on these Red Bull vodkas all night. Hangovers be damned, bro. Ha, dude. Wish I had a puka shell necklace for this bit. As long as you can proliferate those energy counters between casting your creatures, which is super easy by the way, you can keep on casting creatures with mana value 3 or less as much as you want. If you haven't noticed, this is 24 of our 30 creatures here. Sticking this enchantment will definitely help you empty your hand in an instant. That way you can spend that mana on more important stuff like activating Magistrate Scepter or activating a Simic Ascendancy or a Contagion Clasp for more and more value and winning the freaking game, dude. We're gonna have a fucking legendary night, bruh. Okay, Timmy section, here we go. Lest we forget that this is a +1 counter deck, we also have plans to knock people out with raw power the way that Garrick intended. Hardened scales combos nicely with Fathom Mage and Sage of Hours, but most importantly, it makes our dudes bigger. It makes our creatures nice and big and huge. Just in time for big boy season, dude, get you one. Ludovic's Test Subject and Mana Gorger Hydra are just big fair beaters. You can still win games like this, by the way. This is not only a fancy combo deck. My favorite thing about playing this list is that it has so many different strategies for winning. We aren't all in on combo, so Artifact Hate and Creature Hate and Poison Counter Hate need to be present to really keep you off of threatening a win. The fact that both of these have trample also means go-wide players won't be able to keep up with us either. If that wasn't enough power, by the way, Herald of Secret Streams will let our big boys become completely unblockable. This really helps if you can get counters onto Ezuri for the commander damage, or onto Bloated Contaminator or Thrumming Bird to proliferate during combat without any risk. Speaking of that, by the way, Containment Grafter lets us proliferate during combat if anything hits a player. Plus, it poisons our opponents and lets us ramp if we get somebody corrupted. I mean, buzzed, bro. It's cool, it's fun, it's fine, don't worry about it. You're gonna cry oil for a little bit, okay? Get over it. It's literally fine, it's no big deal. Hey, look, you're just tripping a little bit, dude, but like, the cops are showing up and you're bleeding oil out of your eyes, so I'm gonna need you to relax, okay, bro? Lastly, we have a venomous dinosaur that is so big and cool and uncounterable that they might as well have named this guy Timmy himself. Toxic 4 and Trample will make sure that someone is always under threat of being poisoned out of the game if 8 damage plus whatever counters you can add to him doesn't get there first. Whoa, removal! Now we gotta remember that we are throwing a party here, right? We don't want to hate on people unnecessarily, so any removal that we play also has to keep our creatures nice and happy and full of counters too. Bearing this in mind, we have Contagion Clasp, Infectious Bite, Smell Fear, and Mesmerizing Dose for spot removal against creatures. We can also give someone a Volatile Stormdrake in exchange for a neighbor's critter. This is also very handy if you have been proliferating a bunch of energy, because of course we're going to invite people over for a drink and a bite, man. Come on, everyone's invited, it's a good time. They're gonna like it. When it comes to non-creatures that are killing our buzz, we have a Cankerbloom and a Carnivorous Canopy to nip them in the bud and potentially give our creatures a little bit of a bump at the same time. Essence Capture and Reject Imperfection both go on the stack, but also get more counters for our little guys. Sink into Stupor is technically removal, but you always have the option to play it as a land if you're having more of a kicked back, chilled out time. Wave Goodbye is also soft removal because we don't want people to go home for the whole night, right? Sometimes they just need to go to the rec room, get a glass of water, and take it easy for a bit before they come back to the yard. Blast Zone is another land which can be used as a sweeper, but only of 1 mana cost of things on the board, so you can get rid of the fuzz without killing the buzz.
Cerveza Cristal. Cerveza Cristal.
Hey there! Are you in the Seattle area? Do you like to scrounge for art to decorate your abode like some kind of a squirrel or a corvid in a nest? If you answered yes, then come to Outsider Comics for their first ever Kobold Art Market the first Thursday of December. You can pick up art from me, MTG Rat Girl. I'll be there alongside a slew of great local creators selling my custom magic tokens, stickers, and some art that is a little too spicy to show on YouTube. The store is also now a registered Magic seller, so you can pick up booster packs, pre-cons, and even participate in events when the market is over. Come to Outsider Comics on 36th Street in Fremont to fill your little cave with trinkets and appease your draconic masters. Thursday, December 5th, only from 6 to 9 p.m. Nice. Because Outsider is so welcoming, you'll always feel like an insider. Summer, baby! We're having a good time. Hey there. Do you ever think to yourself, well, gee, it sure is a shame that I only get one MTG Rat Girl video a month. Well, you're in luck, baby biscuit, because you can join the Patreon club for only $4.99 a month, plus shipping, to get awesome perks like an extra video every month, to get awesome perks like your name featured at the end of each video, to get awesome perks like bloopers, extras. You can see the deck list before everyone else does. You can support a queer artist this year for a reason that I won't get into right now. But there's plenty of perks you can get at patreon.com/@mtgratgirl. It's not formatted like that. Patreon.com/mtgratgirl. There's the link right there. Get it, get on it. Get on it, please. Hi. You can relax and have a good time at patreon.com/mtgratgirl. You can relax. I really want to be in this tree behind me. I think that would be cute. I need to get in shape again. I need to start hiking. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Lands. Half of our land base here is mana fixing, which is usually what a 2-color deck wants, but the fun ones that put counters on things are Drannith Ruins, Karn's Bastion, and Llanowar Reborn. Restless Vinestock is a bit of a reach, but if you need to turn a potent blocker into a measly little 3/3, or you need that 2 extra power on an evasive attacker for some reason, it can get you out of a really tight spot. I also didn't originally build Path of Ancestry into this deck, but going over the creatures again, I realized that 14 out of 30 of them are either an elf or a Phyrexian. So it just happens to work out really great. If you're drafting foundations, by the way, you should look out for these pieces. Mossborn Hydra is an easily trampling threat in case you don't have a Mana Gorger or a big egg on the board. Proliferating before doubling their counters will take someone out of the game before you know it, and make you the baddie of the group. Gnarlid Colony is really good because making big creatures is often underwhelming against token players. This will make them answer you with a sweeper or go out like Mufasa. Zimone Paradox Sculptor is really good because doing cool Timmy shit is just a nice side effect to being able to double the charge counters on a Magistrate Staff or on a Sage of Hours to win the game with infinite turns or by drawing your entire deck. Another good target for this ability is Ravenous Amulet. One activation from this guy is enough to threaten a win by blowing up the entire table Jury style. Incidentally, proliferating might get you there if your table is slow, but Vorel of the Hulklade and Zimone can speed up this process exponentially. Draycatcher. This unassuming little wizard and her incubate counters make a great target for proliferating. With the combination of +1 counters and its prowess ability, you should be able to easily swing in for 3 damage in the early to mid game and start spawning a ton of 2/2 flyers. Baby dragons, you gotta get the baby dragons in there for the heart of the cards. Sorry, I got possessed by the spirit of Joey Wheeler for a minute there. Hey, thanks for watching until the end. I know things are tough for a lot of people out there, but just remember to go to your local LGS, find your community, and share the skills that you have with each other. I know that my local gaming group has been a real safety net when I was new to my city, and they continue to be a place where we can magic the gather together and pool resources. Anyway, if you are in a spot where you can support a queer artist, I'd really appreciate you checking out the Patreon, throwing a couple bucks my way over there, just like these very nice people did right here. You can also see me actually playing this deck at the end of the month on Patreon if you do. It was eventful and a lot of fun. I really like my playgroup, so I hope you check it out. They are very funny and talented people, and I want to support them just like you nice people are supporting me by watching this, sharing it with your friends, and hitting that freaking like and subscribe button, dude. Get in there and ding that freaking bell and join Team Rat Girl to get a new pet rat in the mail. I'll send one to your basement. He's gonna live in your room. He's gonna scratch at the walls and keep you up all night. And he's gonna whisper sweet nothings into your ear. Okay, thank you, bye!